Hello guys, so this is our second video in biology, and as promised we're taking a look at your vertebral column. So we're going to first start from the top and then work our way down. And so at the very top, the skull sits on what's called the atlas. So this is C1. So your cervical spine comprises of 7 cervical vertebrae. Okay, so that's C1, the atlas, and just below that is the axis. And then you'll have vertebrae C3 through C7. So again, this is C1 all the way to C7 right there. That is your cervical spine, basically your neck. And then you have your thoracic spine. Okay, and then you'll notice that at each portion you have a curvature that kind of changes direction. So here you have one that's kind of dorsally being bent towards the back, the posterior end of the body. And also take notice that on your thoracic spine, which is basically 12, C1 through C12, you'll notice that your rib cage, this is where your rib cage articulates with the spine. So it makes a connection with the spine. Okay, so again, that's T1 through T12 in the thoracic. And now let's make our way down to the lumbar. All right, so here we have the lumbar. The lumbar is L1 to L5. Okay, so here's your L1 and then your L5. Now, one of the things that you may or may not have noticed with the lumbar compared to the other vertebrae is that they're much thicker, they're much denser, they're larger at the base. Okay, this is what we would consider your core. So a lot of your body weight is sitting on that lumbar spine. And again, notice how the curvature goes in the opposite direction. Okay, it kind of opens up anteriorly as opposed to posteriorly on the thoracic. So last but not least, at the very tail end of all of this, we end up with the sacrum. Okay, so it's S1 to S5, and these vertebrae are fused together. So it's 5 vertebrae that are fused together, and then at the very end, you have your tailbone or your coccyx. Okay, so you essentially end up with 33 vertebrae that are split up into these 5 sections in your spine. And so just to kind of end up with the vertical spine or the vertebral spine, I did kind of mention with the skull that it protects the brain. Well, your cervical spine, your vertebrae, not just your cervical, but your entire spine in general, protects the spinal cord. Okay, and this is the connection between the brain and the rest of the body. That spinal cord runs all the way down through that vertebrae, okay, through your spine, and then branches out laterally to all the different aspects of the body, communicating the brain to everything else. Okay, so that does it with your spine and the things that you need to know about the vertebral column. Let's move on to your next part.